My name is Lucas Mendez. I'm 35 years old, and I grew up learning that love meant giving up myself. It was an ordinary Thursday on the Upper West Side, the kind of day that New York disguises with sun and traffic, where chaos looks like glamour and haste looks like success. I left the office just before 8 p.m. after yet another extended shift at a cybersecurity startup where no one knows my name, but everyone relies on my code to keep data safe. It's ironic. I protect companies from losing everything, but I couldn't protect myself. I climbed the stairs of the old building where I have lived since I was 28. Fifth floor, no elevator, peeling walls. Each step I climb reminds me of the invisible sacrifices I made for a family that seems to only remember that I exist when the bill is due. When I opened the door to the apartment, the light flashed, as always. A pile of bills waited on the entrance table. Some were mine. Most of them did not. Letters addressed to the name of my mother, Beatriz Mendez, or to that of my father, João Mendez, have ended up there since their apartment was taken over by the bank. They never changed the address because, as my mother always says, "Lucas, this is a family home. We have to help each other." But what no one mentions is that the help never took turns. It was always me helping, them asking, and my sister Vanessa, fading. That night, when I finished heating up the chilled lunch noodles in the microwave and sat down to dinner, the phone rang. It was Vanessa, after 6 months, without showing any sign of life. "Lucas, I know it's late, but we need to talk. It's important." "Are you okay?" I asked, unable to hide my surprise. "It's about Mom and Dad. They lost everything. What was left? The money from Grandma's inheritance, and now they are, with nowhere to stay." I closed my eyes. It was like hearing an echo, the same phrase, repeated in different formats since I was 19 years old. They lost everything, again. I met her the next day, in a cafe near Central Park. Vanessa looked exactly the same as I remembered. Impeccable hair, expensive gym clothes, cell phone newer than my salary would allow. "Did you know they were trying to open that thrift store?" she began, already blaming the world. "The problem was the loan. They put Grandma's name as a guarantee, but she's dead, Vanessa." "Yes, but you know how they are with documents. Everything always in the way it is." I took a deep breath. "And you? Were you when they did that?" "Busy with Leo, my son. Gustavo left me, you remember." "I remember. I remember that you also let the rent fall 3 months behind and showed up here asking me for $5,000, who never returned. Just like Dad's car, Mum's credit card, the college I dropped out to take care of everything while you traveled with the love of your life of the time." She was silent. "Lucas, they will have to leave the pension where they are. And they have nowhere to go." "And what does that have to do with me?" "They're asking to stay with you for a while. Only until they get back on their feet." The silence that followed was more deafening than any horn on 7th Avenue. Vanessa stared at me, as if the answer was already yes, as if it were an obligation, as if the previous dozens of times hadn't taken away my mental health, stability, and the little I built alone. "Answer me, Lou. Are you going to leave our parents on the street?" There, at that moment, I understood. They didn't see my sacrifices as love. They saw it as responsibility, as an eternal debt, and worse, as if I were their plan B for life. It was the same script. They make mistakes. It disappears. They fall. I save. But this time, I didn't feel like a hero anymore. I felt like a hostage. When I got home that Friday night, there was a cardboard box at the door. I thought it was some late delivery, but inside was a note. "Son, sorry for leaving it here, but the pension told us to leave. We're going to sleep in the car tonight. Tomorrow we will try another place. We love you. Mom." I closed the door without picking up the box. I sat on the living room floor and I cried, not to pity, but exhaustion. The doorbell rang. Again. I didn't open it. I lay on the couch with the pillow pressed against my chest and my heart exploding. It was no longer possible. I could no longer be the hero of a story that made me the villain when I said no. If you have ever witnessed or felt a situation of injustice like this, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. Together, we can give voice to those who are so often silenced. The box was still at the door the next morning. I pushed her with my foot as I left, not daring to open it. Maybe because I already knew what was inside. Maybe because I was afraid of what it meant to leave it outside. The truth, I no longer wanted to take care of anything that had the name of Mendez Family Emergency. I took the subway to Brooklyn, where the office of the security consultancy that employed me was located. On the way, I stared at my reflection in the dirty window of the car. Deep, dark circles, unshaven beard, the look of someone who had already decided to live on autopilot. But that night before, something had cracked inside me, and cracks over time become cracks, and cracks explode. At the coffee break, I sat down with Kevin, the only co-worker who knew more than my name. "Is everything okay, man?" he asked, pushing a donut close to me. "It depends. It's okay when your parents drop a box at the door because they were evicted." For the third time, Kevin looked at me with that mixture of pity and care that only good people know how to do. "Are you going to let them stay with you?" I sighed. "They didn't even ask, Kev. They assumed." "And you?" I'm tired." Kevin nodded slowly. "Tired of being responsible? Tired of being the only adult in the family?" On the way home, I stopped at a coffee shop that I frequented little. I ordered a strong coffee and sat in the corner with my back to the street. It was there that I first wrote what I never had the courage to say out loud, a list. Things I stopped doing because of my family. Full-time college, my postgraduate degree in Boston, an exchange to London, financing my own apartment, relationships, because no one can stand an emotional baggage with CPF, peace of mind. And at the end, a question. How many more times will I let myself be extinguished by people who only see me when they are on fire? When I arrived at the building, I found the box overturned. Someone on the floor had thrown coffee over it. Letters, an old sneaker from my father, a photo frame of Vanessa's graduation with a dedication to the best brother in the world. All wet, stained, unrecognizable. It was as if the whole city had shouted at me, "Enough!" I took everything to the trash without opening anything else. On Sunday, I went to visit my therapist. I had no appointment scheduled. I knocked on the door, willing to pay the fine for showing up by surprise. Dr. Renata was a small lady with short white hair and a firm voice. "Lucas, what a surprise. Did something happen?" "I'm tired of feeling guilty for saying no." She offered me tea. I accepted. Real tea, not metaphor. "You have every right to protect yourself, but your body, your emotional, your silence, everyone is warning you that you've gone over your limit. Now what do you want to do?" It took me a while to respond. "I want to change history, but without having to become cruel. I want to get out of this without being the monster of their narrative." She smiled tenderly. "Then it's time to learn to be firm without guilt. Let go even if on the other side they say you abandoned, because you know the truth. That's it. It is what liberates." On Monday, I received a call from my mother. "Lucas, his father had a pressure crisis. We are in the hospital. He asked to see you. Because I'm still human, and because I still care, and because, despite everything, he is my father." I found him lying down, his eyes sunken, his mouth parched. "Son, I am sorry." For a moment I thought I was going to hear what I had been waiting for all my life. But then he continued, "I'm sorry we pressured you so hard, but now more than ever we need you." That was it. It was never about regret. It was about convenience. And I, standing there with a bottle of water in my hand, understood. My father was also a victim of an emotional system that my mother and sister always manipulated, but he never had the courage to oppose it. And now, it was too late. That night, I called Vanessa. "I'm going to leave the country." "What?" "Remember that exchange I refused? They accepted me again, master's degree in London. And our parents, they are no longer my responsibility." Silence. "Are you really leaving?" "Yes. And before that, I will put on record in writing everything I have already paid for you, including the hidden debts that fell into my name. If they ever come after me again, they will have to go through this." She did not answer, but he took a deep breath. "That's right. You're tired. I understand." "No, you don't. But one day maybe I'll understand. When Leo grows up and looks at you with the same disappointment that I look at our last name." At least once in my life, I started preparing my exit. No drama, no ticket, no box at anyone's door. Only truth, limit, and a new destiny. The following days were a mixture of silence and strategy. I felt like someone about to flee a minefield, every step carefully calculated, every word measured, every emotion contained. I knew that any false gesture would be used as proof that I was ungrateful, selfish, or worse, disloyal. And for the Mendez family, disloyalty was worse than betrayal. I started organizing the paperwork. I went to my bank, asked for the last 5 years of statements. I called card operators, reviewed old contracts, withdrew even the last Sarasa report. In the midst of this dive, I discovered things I didn't expect. Things that made me stop for full minutes, with my heart pounding at my temples. Jacques in 2019, new bank card, name Lucas Mendez, installment 7,200, store VidaFit supplements. I never bought anything with that name. 2020, financing Beleza Express micro franchise, guarantor Lucas Mendez. I didn't sign that. 2021, furniture store, payment denied. Alternative name used, Lucas João Mendez. My parents always used my name as collateral, but now I saw also my data. I ran the CPF report. 3 loans in my name. One of them is overdue. A call was enough to confirm. The registered contact number was Vanessa's. I sat on the kitchen floor. I felt my body weigh more than it could handle. It wasn't just emotional abuse. It was theft, with documents, with addresses, with my last name. I picked up the phone. "Hello?" My mother's voice came from the other side, tired. "I need to talk to you. Now. No excuses, no escape." "What's wrong, son? Did you sign a loan agreement in my name? Ever? Even if you thought you were helping?" Silence. Then she sighed. Slow. As if he already knew that the house had fallen. "It was just to try to keep things running. Vanessa was tight and I didn't authorize anything, none. You defrauded my data. Lucas, please. I was going to leave the country. Now, I may have to stay and answer for debts that are not even mine. Do you understand what they did? We were desperate, and they used that as an excuse to sink me together, as always." I went straight to the office of Mario, a lawyer appointed by Kevin, specialist in identity protection and family fraud. I explained everything. I showed extracts, evidence, signatures, dates. He looked at me with a seriousness that was hard to swallow. "Lucas, what they did to his name is serious. You can open a report, file a lawsuit, and even block Vanessa and her parents from moving anything with a CPF linked to you. I wish I didn't need that, doctor. I know, but family is not an excuse for destruction. If it was a stranger, you would have already sued. The name is yours. The responsibility is yours. The ruin will be yours if you don't do anything." I left there with the papers ready to register the complaint, and with a new weight, that of knowing that by protecting my future, I was burying the past. In the evening, I called Kevin into my apartment. "Are you going to go through with this?" he asked as he held the papers. "I can't let it go anymore. They need to feel the weight of choices." "And London? You're on pause but not cancelled." I just need to clear my name before I leave." Kevin was quiet for a while. Then he pulled out his cell phone and typed something. "What did you do?" "I signed you up for an event, lecture on survivors of abusive families, conversation circle, psychologists, victims, reconstruction. You need to know that you are not alone." For a moment, I felt something warm in my chest, gratitude, truth, clean friendship, something that was not an exchange, nor debt, only presence. I went to the event, and there I saw reflections, men and women who told similar stories, stories of parents who used their names, brothers who always needed just one more time, of mothers who cried to manipulate, of invisible wounds, and also healing. A woman named Diana told how she sued her own sister and how it freed her from the cycle of emotional blackmail. A man named Elias told how he started again at 57, opening a studio far from the city where he lost everything, and for the first time, I saw myself in the mirror, not as a villain, not as ungrateful, but as a survivor. On the way back, I found a letter on my doorstep, handwritten, my mother's handwriting. "Lucas, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. Maybe by letter you will hear me. It hurts me to know that I hurt you, that I went beyond the limit, that I did it with your name. But more than anything, it hurts me to think that I lost you. I didn't know how much we were pulling you to the bottom. Only now that you're gone, I understand. If you want to cut ties, I understand. I just wanted to say that I still love you. Mother." I folded the letter. I kept it in the desk drawer, not to forget, but to remember, love without responsibility is just a beautiful trap. The next morning, I got up even before the alarm clock rang, not out of anxiety, but by decision. I took a slow shower, put on a clean shirt, put on my wristwatch, the same one my father gave me when I turned 18, and I left. Not to work, not even to run away, but to defend myself. The Manhattan court was a few blocks from the Estação. The documents in my backpack and my stomach turned. I went to the police station linked to the civil court. Beside me, the lawyer Mario walked with serenity, as if this type of situation were as common as signing a receipt. Maybe it was. At the counter, when the clerk saw the papers, she raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to register this against your own family?" I swallowed. "I don't have a family anymore, only debts in my name." The process was filed. Request for preventive blocking, investigation of document fraud, request for reimbursement for moral and financial damages. There were 5 signatures, but the 6th was the most difficult, that of freeing the other Lucas, the obedient son, the brother savior, the shoulder of all. Signed. There, in fact, I cut the last emotional tie with the version of me that accepted everything in the name of blood ties. 3 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Is it Mr. Lucas Mendez? Here it is from the Central Registry Office." "Yes?" There was an attempt to open a micro-enterprise with his name. One of our systems showed duplicate CPF. "What is the name of the company?" "Beleza Van Glam." Name of the person in charge, Vanessa Mendez. The silence on the other side was louder than my indignation. She hadn't stopped, even with everything, even with the process in progress, even after my mother's letter. I called Mario immediately. "Does that change the process?" "This accelerates. Now we have indications that it continues to use its data even after formal notification and opening of a complaint. This is a criminal aggravating factor. What about my mother and father? They are included as indirect co-culprits for connivance if the investigation confirms that they knew. For a second, I thought I was going to throw up. The shame was not for processing. It was because it had taken so long. That night, I went to my Aunt Marilyn's apartment, where my parents were staying. I rang the intercom. "Hello? It's Lucas. I came to leave a document." Climbed. Marilyn received me with affection, but with caution. My parents were in the living room. The couch seemed too small for all of us. My father was visibly dejected, my mother with swollen eyes. Vanessa has started another company with my name, I said bluntly. My mother put her hand to her mouth. My father stared at me as if he didn't know what to do with the information. She said she had stopped Lucas, that I was trying to change. I asked for the judicial blocking of any transaction in my CPF, and the lawyer is filing a request for an injunction to freeze all accounts linked to you. My mother stood up. Are you going to take everything from us? I'm not taking anything away. I'm just protecting what's mine, something you didn't do for me. She began to cry, but I didn't give in. For the first time, I didn't give in. What if she gets arrested? My father whispered. It's not my fault. Silence. Lucas, you are still our son, and you're still my parents. But that's no excuse for them to keep destroying my life. I left the documents on the table, and I left. No hug, no anger, only with conviction. The next day, I received an email from the registry office. Vanessa's request to withdraw the attempt to open the company. Too late. Mario called me hours later. We have a preliminary hearing scheduled in 2 weeks. And Lucas, she hired a lawyer. An acquaintance of ours, Dr. Pedro Santoro. How did she manage to pay? Maybe with your data. Maybe with someone else's money. But the strangest thing is, Santoro is the same lawyer who acted in a fraud case involving her ex-husband. Gustavo? Himself. That night, I received an anonymous message. Be careful what you dig up, Lucas. There are things that are better left buried. I didn't sign. I didn't answer. I just took a screenshot. But for the first time, I was afraid. Real fear. Because maybe I was touching not only family wounds, but with bigger schemes than I imagined. The next morning, I woke up to Kevin's email. Lucas, I forwarded you something strange that I received. You need to see that. Call me. I opened the attachment on my cell phone. A scanned, amateur-looking PDF. But the content, it was a fake power of attorney in my name, authorizing bank transactions and transactions of a company called LukeMed Imports, which I had never heard of. The signature? Mine. Counterfeit, but with a cruel detail. It was similar enough to deceive any bank. Below was the date, October 8th, 2021. I checked my calendar for that day. I was hospitalized with an anxiety crisis after Vanessa disappeared for 2 months, leaving debts on my card. She had used my collapse as a window of opportunity. I ran to the computer and pulled the CMPJ of LukeMed Imports, a ghost company based in Queens with a mailing address on behalf of third parties. In the corporate structure, a fake name. But in the IP history of the creation of the company's website, registered in the hosting, the address of Gustavo's house. Yes, Vanessa's ex. The same one who called me once, apologizing for the debts she left in his name. And now, he was back in history, but under the hood. Mario, my lawyer, remained silent while analyzing the documents. Then he blurted out dryly, Lucas, this is no longer just a matter of family fraud. This is money laundering. Are you sure? With the clues we have? Enough to open a federal investigation. If this goes ahead, your sister may get real pity, and whoever else is involved too. I stopped. I felt the air failing, and then came the question, Mario, if I continue, you're going to break your entire family. The silence that followed was greater than the weight of the choice. I spent the next few days in silence, working, sleeping little, reviewing extracts, prints, documents, not out of anger, but for real hunger. I went after Gustavo. I asked Kevin for help, who was good with netting and tracking. We found a WhatsApp number linked to a prepaid plan. I did a test. I sent a message. Hi, I need to talk to you. It's about Vanessa. Lucas, silence for hours. Then an answer. We met, but alone. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. at Pier 45. I arrived earlier. The darkness of the pier contrasted with the city lights in the background. The sound of waves crashing against the concrete was almost hypnotic. Gustavo appeared wearing a cap and hood. "I didn't think you would come," he said. "Are you laundering money for Vanessa?" He laughed. Not humor. Of incredulity. "I got into it to help. She told me she was going to pay my debts, that I was going to start over. Using my name. I didn't know, Lucas. Interest. When I realized there were already open companies, oranges, contracts, but she said that everything was fine. He said you had authorized it. And did you believe it?" He lowered his eyes. "No, but I should. Believe that you would always be responsible, the safe, the mainstay. Are you still involved?" "I left 2 weeks ago, but she's trying to open another company, now with another name." "What name?" "Marina Lopes." My throat closed. "Is she using fake names?" "From the beginning, Lucas. And it's not just with you. There are people in Florida, Texas, all relatives of someone, all with the same profile, emotionally manipulable, financially fragile, and with someone in the family to blame later." There, at that moment, I realized. My sister wasn't just selfish, she was an emotional predator with method. I went back home and opened the computer. I created a dossier, timeline, companies, CPF, addresses, prints, every stroke, every loan. At the top I wrote, "The architecture of an emotional blow." 2 days later, I received a court summons. Vanessa was suing me for defamation. Mario analyzed the case. "This is a defense maneuver, attempt to weaken your criminal case against her. She wants to tire me out, demoralize." Kevin showed up with an envelope. "This will help you," he said, handing over a briefcase. Inside, copies of messages between Vanessa and Gustavo. She laughing at those who fell for the scams. "How did you get that?" "Gustavo sent me. He will testify." "You're scared of being arrested, yes, but also her." There were 4 days left for the hearing, and for the first time, I was ready, not for war, but to face the truth. Wednesday, 9 a.m. The lobby of the Manhattan Federal Courthouse looked quieter than usual, as if the concrete absorbed the tension. My hearing would start in less than an hour. Mario handed me a copy of Vanessa's defense process. The title made me choke on my own air. Accusation of reciprocal financial and emotional abuse. "What do you mean?" I asked, turning the pages with trembling hands. "It's attacking you, Lucas. According to the document, I would have it. Coerced into signing documents without reading them. Withheld family credit cards. I used her emotional fragility to benefit me financially. And the dirtiest scam. Embezzled money from grandma's inheritance while making everyone believe that I was helping. My blood ran cold. Vanessa was rewriting the story, and the script was perverse. She was painting me as the cold, manipulative villain. What's more, there was a statement signed by my mother confirming her version. Mario Miolio firm. We knew she would play hard, but now she involved her parents. Did my mother sign that? Yes. And there's more. His father will also be called to testify. They are trying to create a narrative of a spiteful and vengeful child. I sat on the wooden bench in the hallway. My head was spinning. For a moment, I doubted myself. What if they believe her? What if I look ungrateful? What if I come out as the monster even though I was the one to hold it all for years? Mario sat next to me. "Lucas, remember, liars need coherence. And Vanessa doesn't have that. You have it. And there is proof. It's just hold until the end." In the courtroom, the judge looked too young to handle a decades-long family drama, but his gaze was neutral and sharp. Vanessa entered with high heels, a white blazer and a rehearsed serenity. Next to her, my mother, tense, shrunken. In the first 30 minutes, her lawyer, the infamous Santoro, painted a cinematic version of reality. Lucas Mendez, the controlling brother. Vanessa, the emotionally unstable daughter, always overshadowed by the perfect son. Parents, victims of financial manipulation disguised as generosity. It was almost convincing. Until it was my turn. Mario took a deep breath and began to dismantle the staging. First, she presented screenshots of messages showing Vanessa negotiating opening companies with third-party CPF. Then she showed the fraudulent power of attorney, where she tried to move a company in my name while I was hospitalized. Then he brought Gustavo to testify. She used me as an orange, and she said that her brother would never find out because he was used to cleaning up her shit. The silence in the room was palpable. Finally, Mario showed the video of the conversation circle where I cited, without names, my story as a victim of family financial abuse. The judge watched carefully and then was called Beatriz Mendez, my mother. She climbed onto the dais with short steps. The judge warned her, "Remember, ma'am, that you are under oath." Mario was direct. "Mrs. Beatrice, do you confirm that Lucas embezzled the inheritance of the lady's mother?" She hesitated. "I do not know. It was all done in his name." "Do you have any extracts? Any proof?" "No. But Vanessa also said that he prevented her from using a credit card. Do you know how many purchases were made in his name with Vanessa's company card?" Mario passed on the data. Almost $23,000. Clothes, Uber Black, luxury salon. My mother lowered her eyes. "Are you saying that Lucas forced Vanessa to spend this money?" "No." "Did you know about the companies opened with your son's name?" "No, I didn't know." The judge frowned. "Are you aware that you gave false testimony in the previous petition?" Silence. My father in the audience ran his hand over his face. There, in front of everyone, the image of a united family began to crumble. At halftime, I went out into the hallway. Vanessa came after me. "Do you think you've won?" she whispered with a suppressed smile. "No one will love you after this." I stared at her. "Love without respect is just manipulation, and you're an expert at that. Mom's bad, you know. Maybe now she'll learn to stand up on her own." She turned pale. "You're killing our family." "No, I'm just burying the lies." She turned her back, and in that quick, arrogant step, I saw the charade begin to crack. He stayed back in the room. The judge scheduled the second hearing for decision, but he made it clear there were serious elements that could turn into criminal action. When I left, my mother was waiting in the hallway. "Lucas, no. I just wanted. It's not about what you wanted. It's about what you allowed." And I left, without looking back. 2 weeks after the hearing, the city was shrouded in fog that morning, as if New York was also ashamed of what had been going on behind the scenes for the Mendez family. I opened my email on my cell phone while still lying down. Between process notifications, appointment reminders and bills, some that were not even mine, there was a new message with the subject, "Your story can help a lot of people. Let's talk." It was from an independent documentary production company. He signed a certain Melissa D'Angelo. In the email, she said, "I learned about your case from one of the lawyers involved in financial protection actions. We have received similar reports. We are producing a series about emotional and financial abuse within families. His process is emblematic, but his positioning even more so. We want to hear your version. We don't want sensationalism. We want truth. And would you be willing to talk off the record?" I closed my cell phone and went to the kitchen. I passed coffee. I waited for the aroma to invade the apartment. As I drank the first cup, my mind spun. Expose everything, publicly talking about my sister, about my mother, about years of accumulated guilt. But maybe it was time. Kevin showed up in the late afternoon with a pizza in his hand and the face of someone who knew something was about to change. I heard about it. From what? from the producer. Melissa is serious. He made a short film about psychological abuse between siblings that won an award last year. And you think I should? I think you've already lost the right to hide behind the shame others have placed on you. We were silent for a while. Kevin chewing, me digesting something else. The next morning, I accepted the invitation. We met in a low-key cafe in Soho. Melissa was young but with a vivid look, the kind that listens with the soul, not with the ears. Called her off, she looked at me steadily. Lucas, what you lived has a name. It is relational abuse with the contour of family embezzlement. It's more common than it seems, but no one talks about it. Because no one believes it. Or because those who go through this are ashamed to say that their own mother, sister or father, they use their love as currency. Agreed. Low. What if I told you that we received 5 reports with the same name involved? What name? She pulled out a tablet, opened a file. On the screen, Vanessa Mendez, also registered as Marina Lopez, V. Rangel, and Nessa M. Locations of the reports: New York, Miami, Newark, Boston, Houston. It's a pattern. She approaches fragile relatives, convinces them to let her use the name, or creates bonds of trust to open phantom businesses. When the coup breaks out, it disappears. My stomach sank. Where is she now? Melissa looked around and lowered her voice. Not officially, but the last transactions were traced back to Buenos Aires. I returned home in shock. Vanessa had fled the country. In the family's WhatsApp group, the one I had already silenced months ago, messages popped up. Did anyone hear from Vanessa? She doesn't answer. The police called here at home. I called Mario. Did you see? Yes, and don't worry, the escape only strengthens his case. But his parents are now officially under investigation as accomplices by omission. The prosecution asked for their breach of confidentiality. That night, I received an email from Melissa. Lucas, all the other brothers who fell for Vanessa's scams agreed to talk, anonymously or not. They are ready. Now all that's missing is you. I looked around. My little studio, my safe space, the only place where no one screamed my name for help or collection. I took out my cell phone, typed, "Let's tell this story." But on one condition: no soap opera villains, only the raw truth. And the next day, my mother showed up at the door of my apartment. She was pale, thin, with a hollow look. "Can I come in?" But I didn't offer tea, nor excuses. She sat up, her eyes fixed on the floor. She ran away. I know. The police showed up yesterday. They are looking for documents. The prosecutor said that she moved money in our name. I was weak, Lucas. I let it all happen. I let her use us. No, you let her use me. She nodded, swallowing the guilt like someone swallowing glass. I'm not here to defend myself. I just wanted to say thanks. Why? For not having been like us. She left without saying anything else. And for the first time in 35 years, my mother didn't ask for anything. Nor forgiveness, nor shelter, nor borrowed card. Alone, silence. Filming for the documentary was scheduled to begin the following week. Melissa and the team set up the studio in a warehouse in Brooklyn with a raw, sober, intimate aesthetic. It was as if the environment itself said, "Here, the truth is welcome, even if it hurts." But on the eve of the recording at 2:17 a.m., I received an unknown message on Instagram. "You don't know me, but I know everything about Vanessa. She lied to you, and he also used me. I have proof, but I need to talk to you first. Personally, it's serious." Signed, Cynthia R. At first, I thought it was a scam, but when I opened the profile, photos with Vanessa in 2020 in Miami, they at parties. In one of the images, Vanessa held a folder with the words 2021 plans. Cynthia existed, and she looked scared, I called Melissa. "This could be serious," she said. "Do you want us to go with you?" "No, it's still something I need to face alone." We made an appointment at Battery Park, noon. Public, open, safe place. Cynthia arrived first. Brunette, tense expression, sunken eyes like someone who hadn't slept for days. "Thank you for coming," she said, handing me a thick envelope as soon as I sat down. "It's all here." "All what?" She took a deep breath. "Vanessa's accounts, the documents, the falsified contracts, and, the most important thing, the original dossier." "What dossier?" "The one she used to convince investors. And another, with true intentions. Abri. Two versions of the same business plan. Acute, full of promises, absurd returns, fictional celebrities. Other, raw. Spreadsheets with names of oranges, fake addresses, international accounts. All with markings of who should take the blow if it went wrong. My name appeared 3 times, and more shockingly, my mother's name, twice. "Why did you bring me this now?" "Because she threatened me. He said that if I spoke, he would throw everything in my name, as it did with you, as you did with Gustavo. But when I saw that you were suing, when I saw that you had courage, I thought maybe it was my chance to get out alive." She looked at me with teary eyes. I met her when she just looked hurt. But she's not hurt. She's cold. She taught me to lie with a clean face, Lucas, and I left. I took the envelope and did what she didn't expect. I hugged her. "You're broke, Cynthia. But you don't have to be complicit anymore." Mario analyzed the content. His expression was that of someone who had just found a murder weapon with clear fingerprints. It is definitive. With this material we can involve Interpol, and my mother will have to investigate how much she knew. If she signed these sheets, Lucas, she can go along." I closed my eyes. Another crack in history. Another explosion announced. The night before the documentary was set, Melissa sent me the base script. Nothing forced, nothing scripted, just questions. "When did you realize that you were the one sustaining everything? What did you sacrifice? What would you say to other people trapped in the role of savior of the family? Do you still love your mother? Do you think your sister feels guilty? Would you forgive?" I closed the document without answering anything, because there, facing the silence of my apartment, I realized I still didn't have answers, only scars. The next day, between reflectors, cameras, and recording silence, I sat in front of the interviewer. Melissa, in the background, looked at me with respect, not with pity. The camera turned on. "You can start when you're ready, Lucas." I took a deep breath. I looked straight into the lens, and I started. "My name is Lucas Mendes, and it's the story of how I almost lost everything trying to save those who never wanted to be saved." The documentary aired on a Wednesday night. Discreet but direct title, "The Price of Silence When the Family Becomes Debt." It was just another video in the infinite sea of streaming. But the next day, something strange happened. My phone kept vibrating. Messages from strangers, emails from people in Brazil, Portugal, Texas, Illinois, all saying the same thing. "That's my story too. You said what I never could. I thought I was the only one going through this. Thank you for not being silent." Within 24 hours, the video was reposted on Reddit, then on TikTok. Within 48 hours, it was among the 5 most watched of the month on the platform. In 72 hours, Vanessa reappeared. First as a whisper, a new Instagram profile with the name Veritas Wellness, photo of lotus flower, and a post, "Lies are easy to tell, but every story has 2 sides. Soon, the truth." I would recognize that sentence structure from afar. Passive-aggressive language, manipulation coated with spirituality. It was Vanessa. Again, disguised, but she never changed her tune. I sent the profile to Melissa. She replied in less than 3 minutes. "She's trying to create her own narrative, but the audience is with you. Let it expose itself." The one thing she never learned was that the more light you throw, the more shadows appear. And she was right, because in the comments of the Veritas Wellness post, people started to investigate. Someone pulled out her old names. Another found the records of processes. A former employee of the Miami Ghost Company commented, "This woman destroyed my family. My father died thinking he was guilty." The lotus flower turned to ashes in real time. A dire Tuesday, but the final blow came 5 days later. Melissa Legault, do you have a minute? You can talk. The post-production team found something hidden in Cynthia's audios. She recorded conversations with Vanessa, covertly, and in one of them, his sister says something that can turn the case upside down. What? She admits that she manipulated her grandmother's death. My throat closed. What do you mean? Melissa lowered her tone. She says in these words, "We rushed Grandma's paperwork before she left. That way there was time to move the inventory. Then it was just a matter of waiting. She was already weak." I had to sit down. The ground seemed unstable. That's murder? Technically, patrimonial fraud in anticipation of death. If proven, yes, it is a serious crime. But emotionally, it is even more devastating. My eyes burned. My grandmother, the only one who called me my little love. The only one who told me you don't have to save anyone but yourself. And now, right. Vanessa had turned to death into a tool. The next day, I called my mother. After weeks of no contact, she answered in a dry voice. "Hello? Mother, I know about Grandma." Silence. After, "I didn't want you to know." "So is it true?" "She was suffering, Lucas. He no longer ate. He barely answered." "And you anticipated the inheritance?" She cried. But he did not answer, and I hung up. And the following week, the video with the leaked audio was included as an extra in the documentary, and then exploded. Articles on the main portals, radio interviews, invitations to podcasts, profiles talking about the Vanessa Mendez case as an example of systemic relational abuse. But nothing compared to the personal impact. I received a letter in the mail. It belonged to Marina Lopes's sister, one of the identities used by Vanessa. "Luke, my sister lost everything. He sold the house. She was deceived by a woman who claimed to be a friend, only later discovered that she used a false name. Her name was Vanessa, but it was also called Nessa. Thank you for exposing. You didn't just save yourself. It saved many of us. With love, Raquel L." That night, I went to the terrace of the building, hot coffee in hand. New York down there, indifferent as ever, but different. Vanessa was being hunted in 2 countries, my parents now defendants for connivance and omission. I, a man who learned to say no and survived. Melissa sent me one last message before going to sleep. "Get ready, Lucas. The 2nd season of the documentary was approved. Let's tell the stories of those who survived. You will be the first interviewee." And for the first time in a long time, I slept without guilt. The news came through a dry email sent by an Interpol agent who had already reached out to me months earlier. Subject: Vanessa Mendez, captured in Buenos Aires. She was detained at Ministro Pistarini International Airport, trying to board a flight to Chile with a false passport. Name used Camila dos Reis. I had 7 credit cards, 4 IDs, and $18,000 in cash. I closed the email. I stared at the ceiling. No celebration, no relief, just the weight of those who finally stopped running. Andreessen. On the same day, Mario called me. "She's being extradited, Lucas. When is she coming?" "Within 10 days, but she won't fall without trying to take someone along." "What does that mean?" "She wants to negotiate." "With whom?" "With the public prosecutor's office. Commu." I was silent. "She says she has evidence that can change the course of other processes." names, connections, people who helped, who laundered money for her, but she only delivers if you remove your name from the direct accusation. It was the final blow. Vanessa, even handcuffed, still thought she could control the board. Mario sighed on the other end of the line. I know what you're thinking, but if what she has is real, she can speed up all the processes and protect other victims. And why me? Because you're the only emotional link left. The only one she still tries to hit and manipulate. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I thought of my grandmother's face, in the cry of the Cynthia. No email from Marina's sister. On my father's face. Empty. In my mother's silence. The next morning, I went to the detention center where Vanessa was awaiting extradition. At the request of my lawyer, I went with a clear proposal. I would listen, but he would not negotiate. The reception was cold, with no windows. Vanessa appeared on the other side of the safety glass in her beige uniform, handcuffed, but with the same upright posture as always. Smiled. So, came to see me. I picked up the phone from the side of the glass. You have 10 minutes. She tilted her head, feigning frustration. So cold, so professional. Since when did you become the heartless Lucas? Since you killed everything that made me love you? Her expression wavered, for less than a second. Then, he recovered the mask. I have names. Grown-ups, lawyers, investors who participated, or pretended they didn't see. I have a hidden hard drive with call recordings, transfers, messages. Prove it, she smiled. First, you take my name out of the process. Or what? She glued her face to the glass. Or I'll hand you over as an accomplice. I arched my eyebrow. Are you really going to fall that low? Lucas, the public loves you now, but they don't know what you did to protect me before. Remember the emails you signed for me? Remember the card you unlocked for me with your name on it? Remember that you covered up one of my disappearances? Because I thought you were trying to change. Justice doesn't care about your intention, little brother. Only for the facts. I was silent. She thought she had won, until I said, Do you know what I did this week? She blinked, confused. I sent all this. All documents, statements, old emails, including those who could incriminate me. I explained context, I explained my guilt, I exposed myself completely to end any chance of yours to blackmail me again. She backed off on the bench, for the first time, lost control. Did you give yourself up? No, you freed myself. She said nothing more. I stood up. You can keep this hard drive. Now, whatever you say, it's just desperation. 3 days later, Melissa called me in a choked voice. Lucas. She broke the silence. He gave everything. Why? Because you lost the only one who still served as an audience. The public prosecutor's office began to search the names delivered by Vanessa. Other old suspicions. But the most shocking thing was one name. Beatriz Mendez. My mother. She had signed documents without reading them, authorized transactions, and according to Vanessa, she received part of the profits from outside. It fell like a bomb, not for legality, but because of the emotional weight. Mario was direct. Lucas, she can be arrested, and this time you can't stop it. I stared into the void for long minutes. Then he only said, I'm not going to stop it. The news broke on a grey morning. Without poetry, my mother, Beatriz Mendez, was officially included in the criminal investigation for patrimonial fraud, connivance, and indirect illicit enrichment. The newspapers did not use the term mother of the boy in the documentary, but the online comments, yes. Hypocrite. While talking about overcoming, her mother filled her pockets. Now I understand where the sister learned from. This Lucas must be laughing right now. Poetic justice. No, you didn't laugh. I was crumbling inside. Melissa called me the same day. I need to warn you. The press will look for you. They are trying to link his speech to her downfall. They want your statement. What if I don't give it? You will fill the silence with whatever you want. I took a deep breath. Then let's talk. But in my own way. 2 nights later, I agreed to participate in a podcast. The Recovery Table focused on family trauma, reconciliation, and reconstruction. The host, Drew Matthews, greeted me with a look that mixed respect and care. I know the moment is difficult. Thank you for making room. Recording has begun. Drew did not attack. He did not expose it. He, Pergonto, come true. What did you feel when you learned that your mother was involved? Pausa. EU stared at the table. I felt like I lost someone I never really had. I always thought my mother loved me above all else. Today, I see that she loved the idea of the son who solves everything, the version that sacrifices, that does not complain, that never abandons. What now? Now, I don't know if she loves me without the things I did for her. Silence. Drew respected it. Then he asked, "Do you forgive her?" I answered without hesitation, "Not yet, but I'm learning to forgive myself for letting this go so far." The interview went viral in hours, but unlike the chaos, the video generated empathy. Comments, "I cried listening to this episode. My mother also only loved me when I said yes. Thank you, Lucas, by showing that loving can also be saying enough." The following week, my mother was called to testify, not as a witness, but as investigated. Mario sent me a short message. She will need her own lawyer. The prosecutor is no longer treating it with kindness. It hurt to read that, but not as much as remembering what she did. On the same day, I received a letter, made of paper, handwritten, the kind that hurt even before opening. "Luke, I will not defend myself. I have no excuses nor justifications. I only have silence and shame. I know I made a mistake. I know that I hid behind a mother's love as if it were a shield. But I saw you, for the first time, really alive when you decided not to save anyone else. And I think that deep down, that was what I ran away from the most. I love you, even if you don't say it back anymore." Mum. I kept the letter in a folder with the name, "Things that still hurt, but that no longer define me." Melissa called the next morning. "Lucas, we have a proposal." "Not now, Melissa. It's different." From Penguin Random House. Silence. "Do you want me to write a book?" "No, they want it. Your story, your version, your point of view, of someone who survived the family without becoming the villain." I took a deep breath, and I replied, "Then let's write." But this time, with a beginning, middle, and end. The contract with the publisher was signed. Working title, "The Last Time I Said Yes." The preface would be written by Melissa. Chapter by chapter, I went back to the past. The first loan, Vanessa's first apology, the first time my mother cried for something she herself caused, and my father's constant silence. He was always the mute presence, the man behind the wheel, the one who signed checks without looking, the one that said, "Your mother knows what she's doing," and then disappeared within himself. I judged him as weak, conniving, accomplice for cowardice. But then, on a Wednesday in April, my phone rang. "Hello? A voz era baixa, enferrujada. Son, it is the father." I was speechless. "Can we talk?" "Now," before I regret it again. We met on a bench in Central Park. He was thin, more than I remembered. He wore an old coat and seemed to carry the weight of decades on his shoulders. He sat next to me. He didn't face me. "Are you going to write about me?" he asked. "I'm going to write about everything, including about you." He nodded. "Then let me tell you something, before someone else tells it wrong." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Inside, copies of old documents, statements, house deeds, a handwritten letter, but not by my mother. For my grandmother. "John, Beatrice has always had the gift of making things seem right, even when they aren't. He will be the last to fall. Don't let it fall. With love, Mary. My hands trembled. I found this letter months after your grandmother died, he said, because I was also falling. He looked me in the eye for the first time in years. Lucas, you didn't see it, but in the first years of marriage, I tried to say no. He tried to stop his mother, but every time I did that, she pushed me away from you. He said that I didn't understand anything. He said that his mother knows better, and you gave no. I ran away. I hid at work, in books, in car repairs, in the long silences at the table. But I saw it all, and I didn't do anything. That's it. It's what hurts me the most. He took another paper out of his pocket. It was a bank authorization, dated 2009. His name, his signature. This is the document that allowed Vanessa to open the first company in her name. Did you sign that? Yes. Why? Because your mother told me it's just for the record, João. Lucas won't even know. I stood there, looking at the paper as if it were a weapon. What now? I want you to write that down as well. Let you say, my father failed, because I failed, Lucas, and I don't want to be remembered as the man who kept silent. I want to be remembered as the man who, in the end, had the courage to admit it. I returned home in silence. I opened the new chapter of the book, and I wrote, for years I thought my father was silent, but he was not silent. He was a hostage, not only my mother's, but from the very inability to confront. He failed me, and yet he's still my father. The next morning he texted me, thank you for listening to me. It was about time someone in this family wrote the truth. The manuscript was ready. I delivered it to the publisher's headquarters on a cloudy morning, as if even the weather knew that that chapter needed to end under clouds. The editor, Marcus, gave me a restrained professional hug, but his eyes said what he didn't. It's going to explode. And it wasn't for writing. It was because, for the first time, someone was telling the truth without hiding behind the pain. The book, now with an official title, would be called Nobody's Hero: How I Stopped Trying to Save Those Who Were Sunging. Release date, in 2 months. Melissa warned me, you're going to be called to TV. For radio, articles, they are seeing you as a reference. I don't want to be a symbol. But you already are, Lucas. 2 weeks after the manuscript was delivered, an envelope arrived in the mail. Sender, Federal Penitentiary Institute of Maximum Security, Wing B. The handwriting on the front was clean, but not Vanessa's. I opened it, suspicious, and I was startled when I read the signature. With regret, Gustavo. Side were 3 pages, handwritten. The first began with, Luke, if you're reading this, it's because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Arrested, stopped, sat, and I continued. I was convicted of complicity in fraud, money laundering and use of false documents. Deserved. I don't write to you to ask for forgiveness. I write to you to tell you what Vanessa never told. My hands froze. You think she learned to lie from her mother, but the truth, it's uglier. I continued reading. Vanessa's first ghost company. It wasn't her idea. It was from his uncle Ernesto, your mother's brother, businessman, bankrupt in secret. He taught her how to open CNPJs with third-party names, to create bonds of trust, emotionally exploit relatives, and disappearing with the money. When he died in 2013, Vanessa already had the method all memorized. She just perfected it. I had a chill. My mother never spoke of Ernesto. She only said that he died early and messed with complicated business. I continued reading. Beatrice knew. She covered it up. Her brother was everything to her. When he died, she went on to protect the one person who most resembled him. Vanessa. I stopped reading. For a full minute, my chest was hollow. It all made sense. Favoritism, the denial, endless forgiveness. My mother didn't just defend her daughter. He defended his brother's memory. I returned to the letter. Luke, I didn't write this to make your family even dirty. I wrote because one day you saw me with humanity, and I never reciprocated. I wrote it because if you ever write another book, let it be with all truth, not half. Gustavo. I closed the letter. I kept it carefully, but not in the back of a drawer. I put it at the top of the pile, next to the contract with the publisher, because the truth, even when it hurts, release. I called Mario. I explained everything. I sent photos of the letter. He listened to everything in silence. Then he said, "Lucas, if this is confirmed, his mother may have concealed crimes from two people, not only his daughters, but his brothers. And this has another name, obstruction of justice in succession." The next day, I went to Uncle Ernesto's grave. It was a simple corner of the Bronx cemetery, no flowers. I stood there in silence, no anger, no tears. He just said, "You died and left a poison, but now he has stopped running." And I left. The book arrived on a rainy Tuesday, wrapped in brown paper with the publisher's stamp in the corner. I opened slowly. I flipped through it unhurriedly, as if each printed page were a treated scar, now visible, now recognized. On the cover, nobody's hero. On the back cover, a highlighted sentence from the final chapter. "Sometimes the only love we need to save, it's his own." I closed. I breathed. And for the first time, I felt light. For a few seconds, till Melissa called me. "Did you see?" "What?" "Your mother." "Liv. Channel 3. She's giving an interview." The world stopped. I ran to the laptop. I opened streaming. And there she was, Beatriz Mendez, in a white chair next to the presenter. Made up with simplicity, hair tied up, firm face, but with eyes empty. The caption at the footer, "Mother involved in family scandal breaks silence." The presenter, in a soft voice, asked, "Why did you decide to speak now?" My mother looked straight into the camera. "Because for the first time, my son no longer needs to protect me, pray to breathe, because I destroyed the only love of my life, trying to save what was already rotten." The presenter hesitated. "Are you referring to Vanessa?" "No, I'm referring to my brother, Ernesto. Silencio, our live. I was his accomplice. I signed papers. I covered up business. I thought I did it for love. Later, I repeated it with my daughter, because Vanessa was all that was left of him. And I used my eldest son as a crutch, as a base, safe, as an emotional shield." The presenter, visibly impacted, asked, "And what do you want now?" My mother looked down, then slowly to the camera. "I want my son. Forgive me, even if you never call me again, even if he never hugs me again, but let him live." I closed the notebook. The silence in the room seemed heavier than the rain outside. Kevin texted me. "Did you see?" I replied. "I did." Melissa called minutes later. That changes everything. Public perception, the narrative, the journey. Now, it's not just about you saying no. It's about you being the only one to say enough in a house where everyone said amen. The following week, the book sold out in pre-order. The documentary earned a second nomination, and a support network was formed from the hashtag Filhos que dizem não. But the most unexpected moment came in a simple envelope. No sender. Inside, a receipt from a donation of $5,000 made to the NGO Victims of Family Fraud. In the corner of the sheet, a handwritten note. "I used your name for years. Now, I use mine. Beatriz." And that night, I opened the last chapter of the book. The publisher had left blank space. They suggested a real-time epilogue. I sat down and wrote, "Today, I received the first real request for forgiveness from the woman who shaped me the most and hurt me the most. I don't know if I forgive, but for the first time, she took over, and sometimes this is already the beginning of everything." I closed the book, and he knew. The end was near, but it would not be tragic. The Ernesto series On the morning of my mother's final judgment, the alarm clock rang at 6 a.m. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, with the butterflies in my stomach of someone who knew there was nothing more to be said, only heard. Mario sent me an early message. "Are you coming?" she asked. I only replied, "I don't know yet." I got up, I made coffee, I washed the mug. I looked at the envelope left on the door the night before. No sender, no address, just my name. Inside, there was a letter, signed by Vanessa. The last voice I wanted to hear, but the last piece of the puzzle. Open. "Luke, I know you hate me, and there is a reason. I don't write to redeem myself, not even to ask for forgiveness. I only write because, of all the people I deceived, you were the only one who tried to save me out of love, not guilt, and I destroyed that. The truth? I always knew what I was doing, from the beginning, from the first false name, the first forged signature, the first "it will work." But a part of me wanted you to give up on me, because I never knew how to love anyone who didn't leave me in control. I felt my heart tighten, not out of nostalgia, but finally, I continued reading. What you did, to leave, to break, to say no, was the most beautiful and cruelest thing anyone has ever done for me, because it showed who I could have been, if it had been you. Long live Lucas, because, as rotten as we have been, you have always been the exception. On this one, I kept the letter, but not in the trash, not even in the drawer of sorrows. I put it inside the first copy of my book, between the pages where I talk about the turning point, because even the people who destroy us, sometimes they set us free without knowing it. I went to the trial. My mother was in the dock. When he saw me, his eyes filled with water. He didn't smile, he didn't wave, he only saw me, and I, for the first time, saw her as a woman. No mother, not villain, just a tired woman who did not know how to stop. At the end of the session, the judge suspended the sentence due to age, health, and collaboration. My mother would not leave there in handcuffs, but it wouldn't come out the same either. On the way out, she walked up to me. We came face to face, and she said, "You killed me, in the best sense of the word." I smiled, lightly. "And you gave birth to me, in the worst sense." She laughed, crying. "Is it all there in the book?" "Not everything. So can I still surprise you?" I shook my head. "Only if it's with silence." She nodded, and he left. 2 months later, I was invited to an international event on emotional reconstruction in London. Melissa Miligo, "They want you as a keynote speaker. You have an audience outside the country now." I was silent. "Lucas, I accept, but I will not speak as a victim." "How then?" "As someone who survived without turning over what he swore to destroy." Days later at the airport, I got on the flight with a light backpack. Beside it, a copy of the book, my mother's letter, Vanessa's letter, and a note from my father with 3 words. "Now I'm your fan." As he looked at New York through the airplane windows, he knew I wasn't running away. He was finally leaving by choice. Because not every ending needs redemption. Sometimes all we need is a fresh start, where no one knows you like the version you had to abandon.